An age-old question in boxing. We're going to answer it today on Boxing Scene Today right here in the ProBox TV studios. That's right. It's a case of Ben Whittaker over Liam Cameron getting a stoppage. Very, very controversial. Where do you go with his career? Also, we'll discuss some boxing history. I'm in studio, Jimmy Smith alongside the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, also Coach Robert Garcia joining us. When you look at the Ben Whittaker over Liam Cameron win, it's one of those, Paulie, you called it a typical UK stoppage. That's what a lot of fans thought about this. Didn't look like there were fight-stopping punches, although Whittaker was doing very, very well. The stoppage had a lot of fans upset.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll say is Cameron looked like he kind of was clapping afterwards. So he's like, so he was sort of, maybe he accepted it more than he should have. But yeah, I mean, you want to see the guys earn their stoppages. Also, I don't think it does Ben Whittaker any services or any favors, because really the question mark about Ben Whittaker is what happens when he goes some rounds. He's getting he's getting to develop a reputation for being a bit of a front runner. So giving him the early stoppage does absolutely nothing for him except, okay, he'll move on to the next fight. But is the problem solved or is it not solved? Yeah. You would like to see the problem solved because this is a very talented guy. He's got, he's got a tremendous amount of upside in terms of marketability and talent and whatnot. But does he have the character? We still don't know that yet, and that's where being a front runner comes into play. Guys with that are front runners typically don't have the character to bite down as things get a little tougher, as the fight grinds out into the more difficult parts, the more difficult rounds, the later parts of the fight, where if a guy especially is remaining competitive with you in those later parts of the fight. So, Cameron seemed to be a guy who had given him some trouble in the first time around. So we wanted to see if going through some rounds with him, he could first of all handle him more easily, and if that's the case, okay, that's good. That will be one piece to start with. But second of all, if he's not handling him easily, does he have the mental fortitude to not look for a way out? Because that first fight, he kind of there is a
Ben Whittaker,
as
they called him on Twitter.
For those of us that have been pushed over the rope, pushed back on the ropes, we don't take ourselves lean off the top so we can flip back over either.
And also hurt your ankle when your ankle didn't touch the floor.
Yeah, so it's very talented fighter, very good fighter. But did we get any answers? Thanks to the referee, no, we did not get any answers.
Champ, I look at it a little differently. I look at it like if I'm the handlers of Ben Whittaker, get the win, get this one in the rear view, move forward now, but pump the brakes. They moved him up way too fast. Cameron was a very tough guy. And Ben Whittaker is super talented, especially his physical gifts. The front runner thing, a lot of times you don't notice
that. He's a gold medalist, right?
Yeah,
Olympic gold medalist. So
he's
typically you get moved faster.
You get moved faster for sure, but the speed at which they moved from fight number 9 to fight number 8 to fight number 9 was way too much. It was way too big of a jump. Liam Cameron is super tough. Never been stopped. He had a split decision loss to Lyndon Arthur, the guy who fought all these top guys. Very, very big step up. And yeah, was he not only having trouble with him that first fight, he was giving him hell that first fight. And Ben came out with this fight, and he did what if I'm the handler again, Ben just did what he was supposed to do the first time. Let's get it behind us. We got the win. You got the stoppage. Whatever. A little controversial.
Take a step back.
Cool. Now we not even take a step back. We just slow down the progression. We're not going for the Liam Camerons right away again. You build up not being a front runner by having some tough fights along the way, like the Top Rank way of giving you the certain kind of guys here and there. I think they can move him a lot faster again because of the gold medalist thing. But maybe they just pump the brakes on
maybe
how
guys
fast
who may not
is.
be talented, but they're durable, and see how you handle them.
Yeah, get him in there deeper because Cameron's actually talented too. The guy knows how to put punches together. So I thought it was more of just a big step up, or too big at the time. But at the end of the day, Ben Whittaker is a talent.
Yeah, but Coach Garcia, I have to ask you. This is another criticism I'm hearing from fans: is he's 27 years old. 9-0, 9-0-1. That's not a lot of fights for that age. I know he was a standout amateur, but it seems like guys who are in that class, Olympics 2020, have had a lot more fights and progressed a lot more in their careers than Whittaker. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, that's why I'll go against Chris. With all due respect, champ, I think at that age, Olympic gold medalist, and that jump was actually what he needed, because that's the way he performs. That's the way he fights since his pro debut. He clowns his opponents. He's a very talented man, but he clowns. He makes it look like he's ready to become champion in his next fight. Since he turned pro, he's acting like that. So Cameron was a perfect opponent, but he failed. He failed the first time they fought. And this one, the stoppage, wasn't, people weren't very happy. So there's still a lot of questions about Whittaker. Whittaker is a great fighter, very talented. I was with Anthony Joshua a couple years ago, and back in in England, that's all they were talking about. The new kid, this Olympian, and talent, he's got it. But you never know, man. When it comes to deep waters, maybe he's not gonna have the heart.
You need character.
Maybe he's not gonna exactly. Maybe he's not gonna have the heart. You don't know. He found a way out, and that was his excuse. And this time, the ref kind of helped him, with that stoppage. He's winning, but he still needs that. I don't think it was too soon. I think he's 27. He's a gold medalist. He's showing to the world that he's better than anybody else, that he's the best in the division. Then he needs to perform. He needs to fight those guys.
Robert, have you seen guys in the gym that were super talented, but you could tell the heart wasn't there, and it wasn't even on fight night? You saw it in the gym. Because listen, I've been to your gym. The sparring in that gym is rough and tumble. If you're not made for it, it's going to show. Have you seen that with guys that personally?
It happens a lot, champ. You know that it happens a lot. It happens all the time. We've been through so many fighters, in my gym. And sometimes, if you put them in a sparring match, you could see that you would be able to sell them to the top promoters as one of the best fighters you've ever had. But when the bell rings and it's time to fight, they act different. They perform different. It's just the way boxing is, man. I think with Whittaker, that's the question that we're gonna have. We have to see him. That fight with Cameron was a perfect fight to show the world that he might not be ready, but he might never be ready, because when it comes to the heart, or the way we call, say it over here in the States and Mexico, the balls, might not be there. I don't know, sorry to say that.
Can't teach balls. Can't teach balls.
Huevos.
Yeah, but is it, but Paulie, let me go back to you. Is it the hardest stereotype to overcome is this guy's got no heart? Meaning, this guy doesn't have speed, this guy doesn't have power, this guy doesn't have this. We've seen successful fighters have all of, a detriment to all those qualities. I've never seen a fighter go all the way to the top and you went, oh, he's got no heart. Is it the hardest thing to overcome?
In boxing, I feel like it's a tough one to overcome. In boxing, because you can't, there's a little bit less ways to slow down the pace and whatnot. Like in MMA, you can kind of roll.
I can out-grapple you.
Grapple you, whatnot. You also have multiple ways to get out of a fight in MMA. Conor McGregor, sorry, I got to bring it up, guys. He found the way to get.
You've been brought up in a while.
He found that way to get out of the fight with the Nate Diaz fight. That was the ground fighter, but he took it to the ground. And then, hey, I'm gonna choke. I'm allowed to choke. I'm allowed to tap out, and everybody's gonna understand that, right? So there's a few ways you can cop out. In boxing, it's very difficult to cop out because it's all on your feet. It's basically, do you want to fight or do you not want to fight? You don't have any options, bro. You're gonna throw punches or you're not gonna throw punches. You're gonna close up into a shell and survive, or you're gonna go. So it's a more difficult thing to overcome in boxing, I feel like, because there's just less ways to cop out. And so when you do cop out, sort of it's more obvious to see. Even I think the Victor Ortiz fight with Mayweather, you try to foul out, and then it didn't work because it was such a big fight. But you see guys also trying to foul out
for about 30 seconds.
Yeah. So I
always think of Andrew Galata.
Yeah,
Andrew Galata
would consistently fall apart.
But you see what I'm saying? It's with Galata, you see it the first time with Bo, and if you don't know any better, you're like, oh, he just kept fouling. He couldn't help himself. But then you see him in the Michael Graham fight, and he just outright quits. So again,
Tyson
So you start to see that these kind of character traits are hard to break, bro. I'm telling you. But I will say, bring up one guy that seemed to get it better as he came along. So it's not like it's hopeless for Ben Whittaker, and we have to continue to say, oh, he's just not going to have the guts. Vladimir Klitschko was a guy who had his heart questioned a lot early in his career. Knockout losses to Ross Purity.
Both did. Vitaly did too, because of the shoulder.
Vitaly too with the shoulder. Then and with the Chris Bird fight, and Vladimir with Ross Purity knockout and the Lehman Brewster knockout, where he goes from doing really well, then all of a sudden he's just looks apart. Looks like a limp noodle, So you're thinking, all right, this guy's a front runner, man, and so and that's a bad front runner, you know what I mean? Because there's guys who reach world class level that had reputations for being front runners sometimes, but they're so good that it's not really that noticeable. But when you just completely fall apart, people start to wonder if you really have the goods. You know, Vladimir really had to make that transition really well, and I think Emmanuel Stewart helped him. But what I'm saying is, it's possible. It's possible, and I think with Ben Whittaker, you know, it's not to say he doesn't have character. We've only seen that glaring issue once, but it's a big glaring issue we noticed in that fight.
He's now got Andy Lee in his corner. Andy Lee is a good coach, and he's also a fighter.
Yeah,
and he'll spot if Ben doesn't have the goods.
Robert, I want to ask you, because when I think about Hart, a lot of times I think about, for example, Michael Moore, who almost had to be pushed, right? Teddy Atlas literally just pushed him to fight against Evander Holyfield and become heavyweight champion. How much do you push a fighter like that? Or how much do you go, hey, look, this is on you, man. If you don't have the heart to do this, what do you want? What do you want from me? What's the responsibility of a coach with a guy like that?
You have to know the fighters, you know, obviously for months and years in the gym, and you got to know how to act with them, how to treat them. Also, there's fighters that are very sensitive, and they can take your words that are encouraging, but at the same time, kind of, we could say, bad words. Some I need those. Others don't. Others can't take that. You know, it's just depending on the fighter. And even with, you know, we go back to Whittaker. Even Whittaker, he's got the talent. He's got the attitude, you know, to become champion. He could become champion, but his team, his management, his promoters, they have to get him with the right opponents, then find the right champion. He could be a champion, and he's already a superstar in his country. You know, he's known everywhere. So they could make him a champion. Even though I'm questioning his heart, I still believe he could be a champion because he does have the talent. He performs, and people want to see him. People might want to see him get knocked out, but they're still gonna pay to see him. So I think he's got a chance.
Robert, that was my point before. I just think that I think that Cameron fight exposed that, hey, we got to move him a little more carefully. We can't just throw him out there.
At 27 years old, where are you moving him? You know what I mean?
Well, that's the other side of the coin.
You got an Olympic gold medalist. Usually, especially when you have Eastern European Olympic gold medalists that are ready to fight for titles at 5 fights.
In his 8th pro fight, he fought a guy with 15 losses. Then his next fight is Liam Cameron. I mean, there's a proper jump. I thought it was too much.
Yeah. As far as one fight to the next, you got a point there.
If only the Bob father were in charge of everybody, right?
That's on his team too. I mean, if you're gonna make that move, you gotta make those transitions. You gotta make those transitions consistently. You can't go from nothing to something all at once. You know, but with the UK, it's such a big scene, and once you have a little bit of momentum behind you, everything gets behind you. Then it's a lot of pressure to be under as well. If I think of another fighter that sort of was like this hot shot prospect and was looking really good, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the floor ran out from under him. He's still around, I think. Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly was another one, very very looked really, really good. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, this kid, you know, and they're getting behind him, marketable and all this stuff. And then I think who beat him? Avanesian. Avanesian, who was just a sturdy guy who doesn't go anywhere, but he's sturdy and he's there. And I think,
but he had trouble with Ray Robinson. He fought on the same card with me with Tommy Coyle. That night, all the Brits had trouble.
That was his Cameron, right?
Yes.
That was his okay. You start to see there's a little bit of cracks here in the wall that we're painting here, you know. And with Whittaker, I think maybe this was his Ray Robinson moment. Like, we see the cracks now. Are they fixable? Or is it going to continue to fall apart here? And when he steps up to just a durable guy, because at the end of the day, Avanesian was a fringe durable contender. His claim to fame is being durable. You know what I mean? Where he just gets in your face and he's durable. But there's nothing flashy about him. There was nothing special about him. But he was able.
Kelly was the exact opposite.
Yeah, he was
not durable and super flash.
Yeah, super flash. Exactly. You know, you need, if you're gonna bring the sizzle, you gotta also have the steak, dude. Yeah. And right now, you know, guys like Ben Whittaker, even Josh Kelly, they'd shown the sizzle. But it's yet to be determined if we got the steak. Maybe we would have had a better answer to this, and we would have got a better idea in this rematch. But thanks to the referee, who I forgot his name. He's lucky I don't know his name. Thanks to the referee, we have no answers. Not yet anyway.
Well, it's a great transition to our day in boxing history. Someone will do a lot more here on Boxing Scene Today. So we had so much fun with the war, the 40th anniversary. We talked about that. Well, it was 2001 today, April 22nd. The first fight, Hasim Rahman versus Lennox Lewis. A big upset knockout, only the second loss of Lennox Lewis's career, second knockout, of course. in South Africa. It was at elevation. He was filming Ocean's 11. Apparently wasn't taking the fight very seriously. But, Robert, I want to start with you because fans of Lennox Lewis see him as one of the greatest heavyweights, if not the greatest, of the post-Mike Tyson era. The 90s were a great era of heavyweights. Lennox Lewis may have been the best, but he tended to fight down to his level of opposition. His 2 losses, Oliver McCall, Hasim Rahman, he fought and beat much better guys, but certain guys he just didn't seem to take seriously. Is that part of his legacy when you look back on it?
Look, it is what it is with Lennox Lewis. You know, Lennox Lewis at that time was one of my favorites. I enjoyed watching his fights. He was a great heavyweight champion, and coming off the amateurs, Olympics, and all that. He was somebody that we here, my family, really looked up to and wanted to see him fight. So when he lost, it was kind of hurtful. So we were a little more personal because we really liked him. Like I told you, I just enjoy watching his fights, and my whole family, my dad, everybody, we used to sit and watch him. It wasn't easy, but it's just, what can we say? It's just the way boxing is. Sometimes you get caught and go out and can't get up, and it happened a couple of times with him. He's just one of those guys that I can't hate, but those couple performances I wasn't very happy with.
Yeah, it's one of those things, as Coach said, Chris, you always saw the talent in Lennox Lewis. Big heavyweight, great right hand, one of the best jabbers in heavyweight history. But he had 2 things. He tended to kind of play chess, not checkers. He tended to kind of play the long game, play it safe a little bit. And once again, the 2 losses were 2 guys who had no business beating a prime Lennox Lewis. What's your thought?
Well, it goes back to my saying, at heavyweight, nobody has a chin. Because everybody can punch, and you get clipped, you get cut on your chin. If you watch that punch, that thing hit nothing but chin. It was a real beaut of a shot that put Lennox down. This is one of those fights where, like, you remember where you were when you watched it. I was in high school. I was a junior year. I was actually watching it with my first girlfriend at the time. We were watching it, in my room, and I was like screaming. My family was like, "What the hell's going on? Are you okay?" And but it was like it was such an amazing upset. And I remember Lennox, like, Coach, you really like Lennox. I didn't like Lennox when he was fighting. I really like him now. Like, he's one of those guys, like, looking back in hindsight, I was like, man, this guy's one of the best that I've ever seen. But at the time, I don't know what it was. I just didn't like him. So I was like, Rahman, American
You weren't
guy,
alone.
American guy. I was like, all right, we got one. We got American heavyweight. And Hasim was an easy guy to like. He was in so many great thrilling fights. The Moskayev fight.
Yeah.
Forget it. The guy Ike Abuchi. No, not Ike.
Tua.
That's what I was thinking.
The hematoma.
They were killing each other against Vander
Holyfield.
Holyfield. Hasim was a super likable guy. So for me at that time, I was like, yeah, we got American heavyweight. But now looking back, I'm like, man, Lennox was one of the best I've ever seen. And really, Lennox is one of those guys. I look at him now. You can match him up with anyone of any era, and it's hard to go against him because he's just so damn good. The physical size, the first real athletic super heavyweight of our generation. But like you said, Jimmy, he played chess. He was smart. He used his jab. His right hand was shot out of a cannon, and he would just line that thing up and wait to get you on the end of that thing. But also, just like we were talking about before, he had balls. He would fight you if he needed to. If he had to find a way to fight you. Have you watched that fight recently?
Away.
They were killing each other.
Yeah.
It was right in the pocket fighting Ray Mercer, and Ray had world-class power. Yeah, Lennox is one of those guys. I can go on for days about how phenomenal he was from every aspect of putting a heavyweight champion together. But yeah, this is one of those days, man. I think every boxing fan remembers where they were when they watched that punch.
A great quote about Lennox Lewis, Paulie, that I want to bounce off your head, talking about Chris, is born in Jamaica, moved to Canada at age 12, competed in the Olympics for them, beat Riddick Bowe, moved to England for his professional career. If you're a citizen of everywhere, you're a citizen of nowhere. And that a lot of fans had trouble kind of identifying with Lennox.
I think
he was British, Canadian, Jamaican.
Because it goes back to the the sun never sets on the
British Empire.
The British Empire, because he was living basically in commonwealths of the British Empire, in Jamaica and Canada. I don't know the years and whatnot. There's got to be some kind of intermingling there because he speaks with an English accent. So if I don't know how he's raised in Jamaica and Canada, then moved to London as an adult.
Moved as an adult to the UK because he competed in '88
and has the English accent. So there must have been some kind of connection to the UK always. I feel for him to speak the way he does. I'll address a couple of things. Plays chess. I really think he does play chess.
He's a chess player.
It's not like I know we were talking about like boxing wise. He's a thinker and everything, but I think Lennox was a really big chess player in general. He used to call himself a pugilist specialist. He's a real thinker in there. And sometimes it almost looked like he overthought too much. He outthought himself in some of these fights where maybe it would have been just simpler. There's not a lot of thinking you got to do against,
especially when someone's all the physicality,
like McCall and Rockman. They're just brutes with power. Like, maybe you just don't gotta think too much. You just gotta do what you do. Maybe sometimes you overthought it. But you gotta give Rockman credit for the win. And Rockman was involved in some very good fights himself. And Rockman was a bona fide top 10 contender for a lot of years as well.
And came in really good shape in that fight.
Nonetheless, Lennox is a guy we talk about in the history of boxing as one of the guys who you could put him in any era, and we think he competes very well, And we talk about character. We were talking about Ben Whittaker a few minutes ago about character and whatnot. Think about the character of Lennox Lewis in the opposite way. Took these 2 knockout losses. It's tough to come back from knockout losses sometimes psychologically, especially the way he took them both. Those were bad knockouts.
They were bad.
Sometimes guys aren't the same anymore, in terms of confidence and their ability to, be confident in the ring at punching distance and punching range. They're a little bit hesitant. And once you're hesitant, you're not pulling the trigger the right way. And before you know it, your entire boxing style changes and you're not as effective. Lennox came back both times and not only decimated them, but then continued to run his reign of dominance in the heavyweight division. You look at the resume of Lennox Lewis in the heavyweight division. It is comparable to any top resume in heavyweight history. We talk about these guys today, and it's been frustrating to see so many of the heavyweights that weren't getting in the ring until Turgalashid got in there. We were talking about these guys all crossing one another. Tyson Fury wins a few fights, he retires, he comes back. It's like you don't get to see him with everybody. Lennox. I mean, you look at the years of Lennox. It is at least a conversation point to wonder if there ever is a Mike Tyson era if Lennox turns pro after the 1984 Olympics. He doesn't turn pro. He was in the 1984 Olympics and he lost, I think, to Terrell Biggs.
Medal.
I think he lost to Terrell Biggs in the quarterfinals, a fight that he got revenge for in the pros. Yep. Ironically, just like Tyson, who lost to Henry Tillman in the Olympic trials for '84 and then got his revenge in the pros as well. But Lennox stays in the amateurs and wins the 1988 Olympics. Winds up against future heavyweight champion Riddick Bowe in the finals and wins by stoppage. So, and at that point, that's the summer of 1988. At that point, Mike Tyson is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Mm-hmm. So it is conceivable to at least wonder and think, what kind of era do we have if Lennox turns pro after the 84 Olympics? Not a lot of guys stick around for 2 Olympics. Lennox stuck around for 2 Olympics and then also had an amazing career.
All right, so Robert, I'm going to end with you. I'm going to read off this list, right? Because most people consider the Donovic Razor Ruddock fight kind of his coming out party. Razor Ruddock, Tony Tucker, Frank Bruno, Tommy Morrison, Ray Mercer, Oliver McCall, Andrew Galata, Shannon Briggs, Evander Holyfield twice, Michael Grant, Francois Botha, David Tua, Hasim Rahman twice, Mike Tyson, and then, of course, he caps it off with Klitschko. Is he the best heavyweight of the 90s to you?
Unbelievable. It's impressive just to read all those big names, man. He definitely has to be up there. We all love Mike Tyson also, and we enjoyed every time he fought. But that resume, you can't beat that. Honestly, you can't beat that. I got a lot of respect for him.
That's right. We have a ton of respect for him here on Boxing Scene Today. Thank you so much for your opinion, Coach. For the champs, I'm Jimmy Smith. Join us every day for your boxing news. Find out why millions are watching.